My biological mother abandoned me to live with her new boyfriend when I was just 15. I remember the day she left as clearly as if it happened yesterday. The memory is etched into my mind, a wound that never fully healed, no matter how much time has passed. I was 15 years old, standing in the doorway of our tiny apartment, watching my mother pack her suitcase with the same urgency and determination she once used to prepare my school lunches. Only this time, her attention wasn't on me. It was on him. He was waiting for her in the car outside, a man I barely knew, a man she had met just a few months prior. His name was Derek, and he had appeared in our lives like a storm, turning everything upside down in the process. My mother had fallen for him quickly, too quickly, and before I knew it, he had become the center of her world. Not me, not the daughter she had raised on her own for the past 15 years. Him. Where are you going? I asked, my voice trembling as I watched her zip up her suitcase. She didn't look at me. I told you, Mia. I'm moving in with Derek. He has a house in the suburbs, much nicer than this place. But what about me? I asked, my chest tightening with fear. I already knew the answer, but I needed to hear her say it. I needed her to confirm what my heart was dreading. She hesitated for a moment, her hand stilling on the suitcase. Then she sighed, the kind of sigh that made it sound like I was the one being unreasonable. You'll be fine, she said, finally meeting my eyes. You're almost an adult. You can take care of yourself. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Almost an adult? I was 15. I didn't even know how to pay a bill, let alone live on my own. You're leaving me? I whispered, my voice breaking. She rolled her eyes, as if my reaction was some kind of overdramatic performance. I'm not abandoning you, Mia. You can stay here. The rent's paid up for the next 3 months. That gives you plenty of time to figure things out. Figure things out? I repeated, my voice rising. I'm a kid, Mom. I can't live on my own. You'll manage, she said, brushing past me with her suitcase in tow. You're resourceful. Besides, I need this, Mia. I've spent my whole life taking care of other people. It's time I did something for myself. Her words felt like a betrayal. I wanted to scream at her, to beg her to stay, but I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, as she walked out the door and climbed into Derek's car without so much as a backward glance. And just like that, she was gone. For the first few days, I kept expecting her to come back. Every time I heard footsteps in the hallway outside our apartment, my heart would leap with hope. But the footsteps always passed by, and the silence inside the apartment grew heavier with each passing day. I tried calling her, but she rarely answered. When she did, our conversations were short and strained. She'd tell me she was busy, that she'd call me back later, but she never did. It didn't take long for me to realize that I was no longer a priority in her life. Derek had taken my place. With no one else to turn to, I had to figure out how to survive on my own. I started by getting a part-time job at a local diner, bussing tables after school to make some extra money. The work was exhausting, and my grades started to slip, but I didn't have a choice. The 3 months of rent my mother had paid in advance ran out faster than I expected, and I had to learn how to budget what little money I made to keep a roof over my head. There were nights when I went to bed hungry, nights when I cried myself to sleep, wishing for a mother who would swoop in and make everything better. But she never came. The only time I heard from her was when she'd send a text asking if I was okay, as if a single word on a screen could make up for her absence. Over time, I learned how to fend for myself. I taught myself how to cook simple meals, how to navigate the confusing world of bills and utilities, and how to juggle school and work without completely falling apart. It wasn't easy, but it made me stronger. I stopped waiting for my mother to come back, stopped hoping for her to realize the mistake she had made. I realized that I couldn't rely on anyone but myself. Still, there were moments when the pain of her abandonment hit me like a tidal wave. One night, after a particularly rough shift at the diner, I came home to find the electricity had been shut off because I hadn't been able to pay the bill on time. Sitting alone in the dark, I felt a crushing sense of loneliness that threatened to swallow me whole. I wanted to call her, to beg her to come back and help me, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing how much she had hurt me. Instead, I turned to the one thing that had always brought me comfort: writing. I started keeping a journal, pouring all my anger, sadness, and frustration onto the pages. It became my therapy, my way of processing everything I was going through. Over time, those journal entries turned into stories, fictional tales about kids who faced impossible odds but found a way to overcome them. Writing became my escape, my way of turning my pain into something beautiful. Years passed, and I eventually built a life for myself that I could be proud of. I graduated high school, went to college on a scholarship, and pursued a career in journalism, a path inspired by my love of writing. I still thought about my mother from time to time, but the anger and resentment I once felt had dulled to a quiet ache. I had accepted that she wasn't the mother I needed her to be, and I had stopped expecting her to change. Then, one day, out of the blue, she called me. It had been nearly a decade since I'd last heard her voice, and the sound of it brought back a flood of memories. She told me that she and Derek had broken up, that she was living on her own and wanted to reconnect. "I've missed you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I know I messed up, Mia. I know I hurt you. But I want to make things right." Her words stirred a whirlwind of emotions inside me. Part of me wanted to hang up the phone and never speak to her again. But another part of me, the part that still longed for a mother's love, wanted to give her a chance. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near my apartment. When I walked in and saw her sitting at a table, my heart skipped a beat. She looked older, more tired, but there was a warmth in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years. For a moment, I let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, she had changed. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as I sat down. "I know I can't undo the past, but I want to be a part of your life again. If you'll let me." I looked at her, searching her face for sincerity. "Why now?" I asked. "Why did it take you so long to realize what you did to me?" She sighed, tears welling up in her eyes. "I was selfish, Mia. I was so caught up in my own happiness that I didn't see how much I was hurting you. It wasn't until Derek left me that I realized what I had lost. You deserved better than what I gave you, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life." Her words were honest, and for the first time, I saw a glimpse of the mother I had loved as a child. But I also knew that forgiveness wouldn't come easily. "I don't know if I can trust you again," I said, my voice shaking. "You left me when I needed you the most." "I know," she said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn your trust back. Just, please give me a chance." Rebuilding our relationship wasn't easy. It took time, patience, and a lot of difficult conversations. There were moments when I wanted to give up, moments when the pain of the past felt like too much to overcome. But I also saw how hard she was trying, how much she wanted to make amends. In the end, I decided to give her that chance. Not because I owed it to her, but because I owed it to myself. Forgiveness wasn't about letting her off the hook. It was about freeing myself from the weight of the anger and resentment I had carried for so long. Today, our relationship is far from perfect, but it's better than it was. We're still learning how to be in each other's lives, still navigating the complicated history that binds us. But for the first time in years, I feel hopeful. And that, I think, is a good place to start.